morning, Discovery class. You've got a surprise. Discovery class, let me tell you how I found Elmer. We had a quilt on one of our beds that didn't fit our washing machine. So Mary said, let's take it downtown and we'll go to the laundromat. Well, we have a laundromat in downtown Cochrane where I live, and it's called the Lost Sock. We put this thing into the machine, put in the coins, and it said you've got 22 minutes and it'll be done. Well, we left the laundromat and we walked downtown Cochrane. When you come to the ice cream store, you will see that the people are lined up in groups all the way back, and they go right around the block if it's a warm day. And there will be maybe 100 people in line waiting for their turn to go in and get an ice cream. Kitty corner to that store is the hotel. In front of the hotel, underneath the awning, is an old, beat-up, upright piano. While Mary and I were walking that street, we heard this beautiful music. And I said, Mary, those are hymns that are being played. Let's go and hear it. Well, when I went over, Elmer was at the piano playing away, and I sat on a bench beside him. And then when he was finished, we talked. Elmer is 83 years old.
Coming up in December.
In December. Well, that's close.
Yep.
And he has 5 children. He has 12 grandchildren and 3 great-grandchildren. Now, his wife died in 2012. Elmer's alone. He lives by himself. But his job is to go down for that hotel and do this. And some of the days when he's there playing, this is his testimony. What he can't say with his lips, he's doing with his fingers. And they're listening out there on this line to this across the street. Now, I want all of you, if you want to go and have a day out, I want you to go either on a Saturday or a Sunday. Go on out to downtown Cochrane, get yourself an ice cream, stand in line, and this man is going to entertain you, and he will do it.
That's good.
And we are so honored to have him here with us today. Elmer, keep playing, and then I'm going to ask you some more questions as we get down the way.
Okay. This Eyes on a Sparrow, I had the guests come out, special guests. There were sparrows in the tree. And the moment I stopped playing, they would stop chirping. And then all of a sudden, when I started to play, they started to chirp along in the trees. Just unintended guess. I never expected that. This one day on the ledge just in front of me there, I could almost reach over two little birds. They looked like sparrows. They chirped like sparrows, but when I looked at them closely, their whole breasts were red, eh? And they were close together, and they were just singing. Their wings were going like this every time I played. So his eyes on the sparrow. If God takes care of the sparrows, he's taking care of us as well. So that was a real blessing to me to find that
Oh, that's beautiful.
over and above the other people who are listening there.
Elmer, many of our audience in my discovery class, our roots as a church are like your church up in Onaway. We were a North American Baptist. We began here on Charleswood Drive as a small little group, and now we've expanded into who we've become now. Now, go back and give some of my people. Now, remember, half of my class come from German roots, and you would really tickle their fancy if you would give them something in German, and maybe even play a couple of German hymns. If they do, they're going to just eat right out of your hand. So go and tell them a little bit of German, and then go into your song.
Well, we went to this little German Baptist church in Onaway. My wife, she played the piano. We had a choir there. We had to sing in German, of course, an English song and a German song. So we sang a couple of songs. Siehe, das ist Gottes Lamm, welches der Welt immer trägt. Behold the Lamb of God, which taketh away the sins of the world. My wife had to learn to play that in German, believe it or not, as it conducted the choir. But Bist du rein durch das Blut? That's another one we sang. Gott ist die Liebe, liebt auch dich. So here we go, eh?
Living out in Cochrane, not only does Elmer play the great old hymns, but remember, Cochrane is a cow town. And being a cow town, there are lots of songs that are played that some of those that come off the ranches like to hear. So if you're standing in line at the ice cream parlor, you might not just hear hymns. You might hear something else. Show them, Elmer. Home on the Range. Giving us maybe one of the more pop music. Have you got Edelweiss in there?
I need music for that
Oh,
one.
do you? Okay. Well,
So,
listen, I'll tell you, Discovery class, one of our members is not doing well. And I'm talking about Miriam Sardichuk. Miriam has been moved from her apartment with Ed over to the Foothills Hospital. And from the Foothills Hospital just yesterday, she's been removed over to a hospice care. And one of the things that Miriam really enjoyed over there at the apartment were hymns. And they kept playing hymns again and again, over and over again. And they were a blessed thing. And I'm going to let Elmer play a song or three or many. He did a couple of funerals in the last couple of weeks. And as a guest musician at a funeral, he has songs that are very comforting. So Elmer, if you can in your mind, think of what you did the last couple of weeks and do that for some of my class members. And I'm thinking especially of Miriam. Okay, away you go. Oh, that's beautiful. One of the great things of becoming a Christian, Elmer's testimony bears a long, long journey. He made his living working in a gas plant in the north, and he was there for many, many years. And from that, he had all kinds of experiences. Living in a small community, he was on the trustee board of the public school system. When they didn't have an ambulance, he trained his 5 little children, and they bought an ambulance, and they ran their own business by them calling in and Elmer being on shift work. But they handled all those calls for 5 or 6 years, and they became their own EMS. That's amazing. Elmer, do you want to talk to that?
Well, the volunteer system wasn't going too well because many of the workers were on shift work. So when the call came through, oh, he's at work, we had nobody to run the ambulance service. So our family decided, hey, we have to have something better to operate here. So we stuck our heads out and noses out and went and bought an ambulance, and we had to take up our EMTA course. Of course, my wife and I went up north to get it, and our son and daughter, my daughter-in-law, she went to Stony Plain, I think it was, to get their EMTA. Enough to run the ambulance service. We ran a Cadillac ambulance service for that area up there, mostly because of the industrial accidents, animals, moose, deer, that type of thing, highway crashes, and people falling in condensate tanks and that type of thing. H2S overcome, that type of work. So that's what we specialized in up there.
That's beautiful. Give us some more, Elmer. Pretend we're on Main Street. We're walking down Cochrane. You're in front of the hotel. You've got that goofy old piano, and that piano has never sounded so good. Class, when you go to Cochrane, take a look at the piano that Elmer is playing on the street compared to ours that I given him this morning. We're looking at a concert grand. So he's sitting at the Cadillac, but you would never know the difference in the music, either on my Cadillac or the one that's on his Main Street. So Elmer, give us a little tune, pretending we're downtown. My class is coming along beside you, and give them a little tune that they're going to remember.
Okay, it's an old Nordheimer piano at 125, 23 years old. But we had the tuner come in twice. his friend of mine, he came to tune the piano at Evergreen Manor. He said, well, I'll come downtown and tune that piano for me. And when he heard that I was doing all my services, volunteer work, he said, well, you know, if you could do your volunteer work just playing to the public on the piano, I'm going to tune the piano up for nothing. That would be my charity.
Way to go.
He said, not only once, but in July and in August. So he came the second time to tune it up just to make it playable, eh?
Beautiful.
So a little bit of my volunteer work rubbed off on him too, eh? So you probably hear a little catchy tune, eh?
Elmer has a beautiful story. He told me, and I don't believe this, he had a stroke and he was stationed in the hospital here in town. And then they moved him over to the Fanning Center. And he was there for 28 days. But in the Fanning Center, they had an upright piano in one of the rooms. And there was a lady in a wheelchair playing that. And Elmer's going to tell you the story, how he got involved and how she could play. She only played, I think, 2 songs. Elmer, tell him that story.
Well, she wheeled up to the piano and she plunked herself down on the seat and she played God is So Good and the Woman at the Well.
Yeah.
And after playing that over and over and over again, some of the residents would just pick up and leave. They heard it so many different times. I said, well, man, if she has the effort and the audacity to go up to the piano and play those 2 songs, I'm going to go up there and try it by myself. So I walked up there one day and started playing the hymns, one after the other. After a few times of playing, the audience, of course, was created. People would come up and listen to it. But beyond that, some of the staff would come up. They would wheel their equipment, they'd stop their equipment, set it down. They would walk up to the piano and stand around the piano and listen, and oftentimes sing at the piano. And after playing the song, they said, the big question they asked me, what are you doing here? I said, well, I had a stroke. I'm here for rehab. No. You're playing all these songs and you haven't got one sheet of music in front of you. What are you doing here? So it was a chance for me to say, look, I had a stroke, but God gave me all my fingers. I didn't lose any of my faculties at all. I still have my fingers to play the piano. And so I did.
Beautiful. Elmer, I want you to pretend my class over at Discovery class, we're children and we're in Sunday school. Can you give me some of the great old songs that you played to your children? Jesus loves me, Jesus bids us shine, those kind. You have joined us at Discovery class for a surprise, and I know you haven't been disappointed. Elmer has come to us today to play, and I don't want this to be his first and only time. One day I'd like him to come and play for you when you're all here. We're sitting in the room that's empty that you've been in all those times before, but all we have is just Elmer, and we have the old piano. And before we go, I'm going to let him play a benediction for you. It's the one that you played for me and sang when I spoke back a year ago at the church. And it's that beautiful hymn. And it's, what did I tell you, Elmer?
Holy, holy.
Holy, 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 Lord God Almighty, early in the morning, our song shall rise to thee. So I'm going to use that as my benediction from Elmer to you as I close off my class today. And I'm so glad you came to hear this, and I hope you hear it again. Okay, Elmer. We're not sure when we're going to gather back again. This virus is still at our door. We have to be very careful. But I think things are going to open up down the way. And when we gather again, it won't be here in this room because this room is too small for you. We're going to be down in the gymnasium. I'm going to take, after the class that's over now, I'm going to take Elmer down and show him where he could play again with Frida. I'd love to have the two of them with that piano and this, and the two of them play together. If they did that, I think heaven would come right down in the midst of Brentview Church. So until I see you next week, thank you for joining in. Thank you for meeting my friend Elmer. And this will not be the first time you'll see that face. He'll be back. I know he will.
Well,
Until then, God bless you. Say goodbye to them in German, will you, for it?
Guten Tag, auf Wiedersehen.